Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth video in this series on how to build the ultimate modern SharePoint intranet. In this video, we're going to learn how to configure your intranet to show dynamic content. Again, for this video, I'm joined by my good friend Sebastien. How are you doing, Seb?
I'm doing amazing. Here's a version of myself that looks younger than me right now.
Because
Uh,
that version is younger than you.
yeah, that's why.
There you go.
Yeah, super happy to be here. Still, I think this module is super exciting because we're really bringing the the personalization and dynamic aspect to the internet, and I think that's what is that is the key to a great intranet. Personalization is key, making it personal, making it relevant for the user. So I'm very excited for that module.
I agree with you. I think even if from a length duration, this might not be the biggest one, from a value that you add, this is definitely for me in the top three videos that we're gonna do because when somebody logs in on the intranet, they want to see stuff that's relevant to them. They want to make you want to make sure that they go there, they feel like they got value from visiting your intranet, and we're that's what we're going to show you how to enable that. And for those of you that this is the first video that you watch in the series, this is actually the fifth. And again, I know some of you want to know this specific content, and that's fine. But if you're just getting started building a intranet in modern SharePoint, make sure you check out the ones before and, of course, the ones after as well. Uh, just a recap of what we've done before. So we got started building our content on a single site. And after that, in the previous video, we actually learned how to designate a site, how to register a site as a hub site, and how to attach multiple sites to it. And a lot of the things that we're going to show you right now depend on that hub site before. Not all of them, you can do a lot of them without, but it's a lot better if you have it. So again, no slides here. It's just going to be demos. So let's go to SharePoint, Seb, and let's break some things.
Awesome. Let's do that. So let me clear the slides and let's be back to where we left earlier. In that case, it's our site. It's a site that what is a hub. It has two different associated sites also, which are our HR and our IT site that we created earlier. And now we want to make it a little bit more personal. So the first thing we're going to do is we will ensure that the right audience sees the right content. How do we do that? Well, first, we will have to understand a little bit what is the kind of the mindset we need to put ourselves into when we're thinking about audiences. Audiences are a content author preference of who should see the content in their intranet. It's not security. It's more around, I believe that, for example, the finance group should see that content, but the rest, it's not really relevant to them. So even though if they want to see the content, someone sharing a link or just copying a link, that's going to work. But we want to make sure that it makes it relevant and personalized for the finance group. So what I suggest is let's go and configure one of our news site that we created. Let's go and use the Vlad Talks Tech, the first one we created, and let's enable audience targeting on this site so we can understand how it plays out afterwards when somebody is on the root of their intranet and sees the content. Is that okay for you, Vlad?
That's perfect. And what you said is super important. I always say sometimes you got to have the talk with people about what audiencing really means. And audiencing is not security. And also, very important, audiencing is in addition to security. So everything is security trimmed by default. Audiencing you add a layer of personalization. But that doesn't mean that if somebody gets a link to something, or if they go to, let's say, in the document library, they're not going to see it all. It's just a service you add that you display them the good information. But audiencing is not security. It's really, really important that you understand that part.
It is absolutely important, and not only it's important, well, it's the core of that capability. Because if someone does not have access to it, even though we say that the finance group should see that content, the finance group will not see that content. So we need to be very mindful of how we manage this. So let's go to our IT, to our information technology site here. And when clicking, it should click. Right, there you go. And now I'm going to go to my pages library. The pages library is where all the pages, including this page that we're on, and all the news are created and stored. So we're going to see here, we're going to have 3 different pages plus a home page. Okay, now how do we say that we want to have audiencing? You're going to have to go into the library settings. This library setting brings you to some of the classic pages of SharePoint just for configuration. So you're going to want to go to the advanced setting. Let me zoom in a
It's the
little bit more.
audience settings.
Yeah, there you go. Audiences. Thank you.
I always go in the wrong one as well, so I know exactly why you're thinking that.
Yeah, absolutely right. So let me go to the audience targeting settings, and I will be enabling the audience targeting. What's going to happen is it's going to create some new columns in that on that library where you will be able to identify the groups of people that can be Azure Active Directory groups or Office or Microsoft 365 groups directly inside each item, not as security, remember, as a preference of visibility of these things. So I just hit OK. It's going to take a couple of seconds, and now we're back. I'm going to click on the site pages here. So now that I have my audiencing set up on that site, let me go here, select one of the news, the latest news. You remember here, that's the news that is here, top left. And this news, I want to open it in with the information details panel here and add an audience. In this case, let me add the finance members right there. So only the finance member will see this news when configured in a way that a web part should support the audiencing. By default, all the web parts are not supporting audiencing by default. So it means that every web part will show all the news of the sites based on the security. But you're going to see where we will be actually taking this setting, and we're going to add it to one of our web part, and it's going to work super nicely. So let me go here. It says that I need to republish it because there was changes. In this case, we did change the audience. Let me click on the republish button right here, and now the page was republished. So what happens next? Let's go back to our tech lending here, and let's go and modify some of the properties of this web part right there. So let me edit the page. I want to select this web part here and edit it. So now all the sites in the hub are supported. So content will come from all the sites in the hub. But you will find that there's a specific setting around audience targeting. I will be turning that on, and I will be republishing it. So now content that is served through this web part will show all the content from the hub. But if the member that is connected, or if the user that is connected is also part of some of the tagged audiences on the content, they will see it. If they don't see it, if they are not part of these groups, they will not see this part of the content. So let me just reload just to show you that I am part, as Sebastien here, I am part of this group. So we can see it here. In there, I click on it. It actually works super nicely. Now I have this news. Now let's open up another browser. I have another browser lying around right here that is the browser built for Vlad. So that's the identity of Vlad. Vlad is not a member of the finance department because Vlad is part of the HR department or the IT department, but not in finance. So I can, if I hit refresh here, well, Surge did not pick it up yet. So we're gonna wait.
It can take, again, because of the caching and things like that, it can take a few minutes, and I dare to say even up to an hour. Let's say wait up to an hour before opening a support ticket.
Yeah, exactly. And what I'll do here is I'll just leave it there for now. And we will come back to this at the end of this section just to make sure that this really works. But for now, there's other things that we can do with audiencing. One of the things that is great around audiencing is navigation. So let's say here that I want to have enabled audiencing on the navigation. I can go here and enable this site navigation to support audience targeting also. So what does it mean? It means that for here, I'm going to say, hey, I want to create a link to a website, which is, I don't know, oursuperfinancesystem.com, which is the system, the finance system we're using internally. And now I can add an audience to target. And in that case, it's going to be finance. So now when people are and here I'm just going to make it a top link. I'm going to hit save. And now our finance here is only available to people that are in the finance group. So I just reload the page. For myself, I should see it. And let's be lucky here, Vlad. Let's try to do a full refresh here. And there we go. So now we see that Vlad is not part of the finance group. So this is done on each reload of the pages. And that's why we cannot see the finance navigation link here, but we still can see the one from the content because search needs to pick it up. So it's also important to keep in mind that when you put that in place, don't do that just on the fly. It needs planning just to make sure that all the content is fresh and really represents the audiences that you really care about, so it does not affect the personalization aspect of the portal. Now, other ways that we can create dynamic representations of the data. So one of the things that is cool is if we look at the list of web parts that exist, there's a couple of really, really interesting web parts that makes the content super rich. So let's go here. First, let's type in here. And by the way, using the type ahead or the search capabilities here in the web part picker is great because it really helps. There's so many web parts in there. So there's a couple of things. First, there's the My Feed web part. The My Feed web part is a personalized feed of content and activities happening around you in Microsoft 365. So if I click on this, you're going to see these are all content that are related to me that has been posted recently. You can also bring some of the meetings that you're invited to, some of the stream recordings that have been created, for example, a meeting recording. You're going to also find a couple of other types of documents in there, any types of Word, Excel, PowerPoint documents, basically everything that is brand new or that is relevant or recommended for you will actually show up here. So that's a great way to bring personalization to the next level because you don't have to configure anything and it always works out of the box. So that's really, really cool, I believe. Let me delete that because I actually already added it a little bit down here. Another area where there is personalization, and I think that's one of my favorite one, is, for example, earlier we dropped on the page a web part called the highlighted content web part. And I know, Vlad, this is like your favorite web part also.
Well, it's the Swiss Army knife. You can use it to do whatever you want almost.
Exactly. And it's super powerful when you want to slice and dice in your data. So what you can do here is you can filter based on different sources and really apply filter and sort. So let's play around a little bit. What are different sources? There's this current site, a document library, the page library on this site, all the sites in the hub, or you can even select, like handpick some of these sites, or even all the sites from your SharePoint Online implementation. In this case, let me be a little bit more specific. I want to see the page library on this site. So I'm going to create another web part just for pages. So now you're going to see the content just changed. Now we have seven different pages that are on this specific site. And I can use some of the filters. So for example, I can use the title includes the words, and let's use Contoso. And now you see that you see how great it is? Like, I don't even have to save to see the content. No, it automatically reloads for me. So Contoso gives me 3 different pieces of content. But there's also other types of a filter. First, the recently added. So it's going to give me all the recently added, or the recently changed by modified date, for example. In that case, it's my home page, this page that is the latest, because I'm playing with that page continuously. I can also say created by, so I can say all the content created by either the selected user or the current user. So think about when you're building a page around my content. So the user that lands on a page can see the content that they're allowed to see, and they can sort them by the most recent. Then automatically it's going to highlight it. Really cool stuff, I believe. But what is cool, like, I really think that one of the coolest thing here is page properties. In this page properties here, I can see all the different properties that I have. In this case, I only have a title. But if you add, for example, a category field, or you want to add some ways of adding metadata to these news or pages, to add some extra context to the page, you will be able to select it and say, hey, I want this to say, okay, when title equals or does not equal or begins with or contains. So here, if I say contains mark, I want to see all the news that have a title that contains the word mark. In that case, the product, which is the mark 8. So there's really ways to play around with the page properties. But if you want to go a little bit broader, now we're really focusing on this page library in this specific site, which is perfect for a site that is associated to a hub, because you're at the lowest level, you're deeper into the structure. But if you want to do that for all the hub, you also have this ability. So I can go and say all sites in the hub and say the following. Hey, you know what? I want to use something called a managed property. Managed property are search-based properties. So it means that it uses the power of search to showcase the right information to your users. So for example, if I hit manage properties and I hit here title, sorry about that, I will give me my manage property. And there you go. Here I can find the title right here, and I can do a very similar set of operators here. So contains mark. So in this case, I only have one. But if we remember, we had product earlier, and now it actually finds other content over there. Or even if you want to do products, here you see we have the products that came in. So with this, you will really be able to customize the experience from a search standpoint to build this. And it can be extremely complex. You can say, I want to have the title that contains products, but also I want to have the content also that includes the word burger, which actually should, again, show up here. But I want also the manage property, in that case, it's site title. So here you can even say, oh, I want to be a little bit more specific on which site. For example, this would be coming from equals Vlad Talks Tech.
You'll get it.
Exactly. Yeah. Every time, right? Every time I'm always doing a lot of of typos here. And now it really does that. So now it allows you to have a really cool set of managed properties that are all additive to each other. So you can really limit the scope of searching here. So that is I think an amazing way. But what is even better than that is you can change the way it looks. Oh, now you see it's now a list. Now it's a carousel that is here, or now it's a film strip, which actually would have like a left and right arrows where you can swipe through it. So let me put it as a list here, and let me republish this page. And now I just created all the things that are talking about products that are living in the Vlad Talks Tech site.
And you can also enable audience targeting on it.
Absolutely. If you want to put another layer of personalization right there, it's 100% possible to do so.
And that's why for me it's the Swiss Army knife. What do you want to show? Documents, list items, pages. Where do you want them? From a single library or from all the hub? Do you have columns you want to filter on? Do you have like advanced tokens? There's so many different ways to use that web part to show what you want the way you want it. It's like for me, it's the most used web part on more advanced intranets because it can do so much.
I 100% agree. And I really think that there's also a little bit of a sidekick to the highlighted content web part, which is a little bit different, but uses some of the similar capabilities also. Let me show that to you. So this web part here, the news web part, has some really interesting content also, or capabilities also for dynamic or personalization. So if I edit the web part, I also have, you're going to see here, you're going to also have the same filter capabilities, the audience targeting. I also can change the way it looks. Now you see it's like this, or as a list, or side by side, or hub news, like this here. I'm going to leave this. I really like this, this one here. I can show the number of views or not. I can show the author or not. I can show the first published date or not. So I can just maybe have what's new or who created it and these kind of things. And there's even a really interesting setting here about hide this web part if there's nothing to show. If there's no news, why would we showcase an empty web part? It's also an option. But some of the, give me a second. Looks like my click went away. One of the most requested features for an intranet is curation. To be able to make sure that the most important news is always the most important news. And even if someone else somewhere changes something, we don't want the non-important news to be showcased. So for example,
I
here,
like to call that keeping the boss happy rules.
absolutely. So now I can select the news to organize, which is awesome. So here you're going to see what are the news right now. And I can say, you remember we are building the new products? I just build that on top. So now it made this news a lot more important than the other one. Let me close this now. How did you look at that? Now the first one is Vlad Talk Tech. And you remember I had a hard time since the beginning to actually show this one, right? Because it's always it was created before the rest. And so that's awesome. And especially when you use something like the top story, this will be what's going to get shown. Or if you use the tiles, same thing. And if you use the news, the hub news, it's going to be the first one. So now let's use the top story. In that case, it's going to be super big. And now I can hit republish. I was able to put in some audiencing on that web part. So I see this and Vlad should not see it. We're going to validate that in a couple of seconds. I was able to select this news to be the most important for my organization. So I made it the first tab number one, I was able to create a customized filter on top of the highlighted content web part to really focus on this. We changed some of the navigation on top to only be shown for the finance users. I think, Vlad, we really achieved what is what is in there for personalization and all of that. So let me go back here and refresh this site and see if search happened, magic happened. It did not. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to make sure I'm just
Let's try to give it a little push. Let's try to.
exactly. So how do you get started? Start here.
And what Seb is trying to do is basically changing the content, as now with SharePoint Online, it pushes stuff to the index. So this should send to SharePoint like, hey, a change was made, relook at all of the properties, and now like it should reindex, take that into account.
Exactly. So let me go here and let me try to reload this here. It's still there, but what I suggest, Vlad, is let's take a break, but let's leave a cliffhanger there to bring people to watch episode 6. And we're going to start with showcasing that this news really got removed from Vlad's profile.
Awesome. That works for me. So let me go back here in this view. Well, uh, this is it for this video, in which we learned a bunch of different ways on how to make our content dynamic, from the navigation to audiencing on news, and of course, you can same same thing we applied on news. You can do it on list items, on document libraries as well. So it's not only for news; it's for all types of content, as well as, again, my favorite, the highlighted content web part, which is the Swiss Army knife, and I use all the time. So this is it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you watch all of the other videos in the series, and make sure you like the videos and subscribe to the channel. But for now, we're going to say bye, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at how to brand our intranet. As much as I love purple, let's see how we can put other colors on there. So bye bye for now.